Uh,
Okay.
whoa. Hear that dog?
No, I don't hear a dog. I don't hear a dog.
You're like John Wick with his dog.
Hopefully the audience won't hear the dog either.
Baby needs his baba.
Hey!
Hey, we need to act like a big boy if we're gonna get our beer.
How's bad?
Were you trying to swallow?
Gulp.
You should just do that all the time.
Hello, welcome to episode 40 of To Be Honest. I'm Addison.
I'm Jackson.
I'm Josh.
And we saw John Wick 3 Parabellum.
Pair of these balls.
John Wick fan club.
John Wick.
Right here.
John Wick. John Wick.
John Wick. John Wick.
Yeah.
Upvote. Upvote John Wick.
It's the best. It's so good. So I wanted to start this off by asking you guys a statistical question. What do you think the odds actually are that we would wind up in a theater full of sociopaths?
17.
I'd say 75%.
Yeah, previously I thought it would be astronomical, right? Like no chance in hell type of a deal. And imagine my astonishment when our theater was full of fucking sociopaths.
Why do you say that?
Oh boy. Boy, I say that for many reasons. Mostly the uproarious laughter surrounding vicious murders, graphic,
Gory.
brutal violence. People were laughing and shoving fucking popcorn in their mouths, fucking farting. Like it was as if there was no disruption to their lives watching this fucking movie.
Well, after like the first big action scene where it's probably some of the most graphic violence where it's a knife fight.
Oh, the knives.
Where he is
fucking...
like stabbing people in their heads, and then like the last kill, he's like hammering the knife through a guy's eye. It shows it going through his eye. People clapped and were cheering.
Oh, that's right. Everyone cheered.
Yes.
It's like that scene from Star Wars. Like, this is how democracy dies, and it's to uproarious applause.
This is how fucking empathy dies, is watching fucking John Wick 3.
How you lose your humanity.
It's like the opposite of complete immersion. It's like they are 100% aware of the film, and the film is 100% aware of itself, and they are cheering for that distinction.
You know, I suffer from depression and anxiety, and as such, I kind of walk around with a pervasive feeling of loneliness. Like, all throughout my life, I don't know that I've ever felt lonelier than I did tonight watching John Wick 3 Parabellum.
Because you couldn't get into it?
Because I just felt alien.
You felt like you were in the Roman Colosseum watching gladiators slice each other to bits and people applauding and...
Let me fucking head off then!
Well, this was the first time that I thought I was going to get... I was about to get got in a movie theater because there's a guy who came in like one of the closing scenes after just like hours of extreme violence being flashed in front of me. There's this guy who is just standing at the end of the aisleway, seemingly just like staring everybody down. I'm like, oh god, this is it.
This is it, folks. Conversely, I was sitting next to probably, I would say, a 16 or 17-year-old boy who laughed and fucking farted and shoved popcorn in his face. He was delighted with literally every second of this film. And all I could think of is, like, here it is. Like, this is the next school shooter that we're going to see. I know that's a bit extreme. I know that's a tad extreme. However, the glee that people had watching this movie was foreign to me.
This was an extremely violent movie.
Yeah,
Extremely violent.
Can I address that point though? About
which point?
About why? Well, I guess the question is, why is it so wrong to cheer for a movie that is violent and is glorifying its own violence? What is inherently wrong about it? I can understand if like the movie goes to extremes to take itself seriously, but this movie isn't doing that.
That's a question that I want to address, but not right this second. I want to reel it back in a little bit and just talk kind of experience with the series up to this point, right? Because we're on film number 3.
Mm-hmm.
I personally saw the first one. And you know what? I actually wanted to comment, too, as far as, like, I haven't seen any of these films in a movie theater.
Me neither.
And I think that might be, like, the missing link, right? So we watched the first movie, Lauren and I, we rented it and watched it, and it was fine. You know, it was entertaining. I thought Keanu Reeves did a good job, but it had a good thrust as far as, like, the revenge story, right? And the puppy being killed in the early scenes. You're like, yeah, fuck him up, John.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second one I watched while playing Nintendo Switch. And
oh, see you later. Sorry, that was the
Dang, you just switched up on Nintendo Switch.
That was the Nintendo Switch logo making its way across the screen.
And you know,
continue.
I'm accustomed to playing games, or you know, while I watch movies. It's something I can do. I can multitask like that. But for some reason, John Wick 2 never brought me in, never latched onto it. So I was like just playing a game and then just hearing like, and it was just, I was just like, okay.
Are you the sound designer
Yeah,
for
I was
this?
gonna say.
Yeah.
That was spot on.
I can't tell you how much self-loathing I'm filled with actually watching the product of my hard work.
Oh my God.
And so then John Wick 3, I didn't really, as a result, have any expectations for. I was like, I could probably miss it. I'm not dying to see it by any means. And here we are. So
I watched the first one. I enjoyed it. It was like you said, it's a good revenge flick where you get fueled up by these assholes killing his dog when he's grieving for his dead wife, and then it's just like this nonstop, you know, force chasing after these guys until he finally accomplishes his task at any cost. The second one, you know, it's definitely losing steam, and it's bringing in kind of like that big world view of like there's this underworld of assassins that are ruled by the high table. There's rules that you can't break, and sure enough, John Wick breaks those rules to, you know, get his revenge. Wasn't a huge fan of the second one, but kind of just like appreciated it for what it was. Still wasn't really excited for this one. You know, I probably wouldn't have seen it, you know, unless there was, you know, a lot of hype around it. People were really excited for it.
yeah, I mean, and it's getting pretty solid reviews.
Is it? I was wondering
I think it's
about
at
that.
like a 78 on Metacritic.
Well, the first two were like in the mid 90s, aren't they?
I would say
maybe
80s
high
tops.
87s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely sequential, right? Like the first one got really good marks. I think probably high 80s. And then the second one, I think, is probably about at the same level as the third one.
I
Probably
think
high
actually
70s.
the second one may be like a point or two higher from what I saw earlier.
Wow, well, that's
Which is kind of crazy.
It's arbitrary. All that's pointless.
Josh, you haven't seen one of these before, you were saying.
Nope.
Earlier.
I haven't seen these. I have seen plenty of action films and also Chinese action films to be specific. And yeah, that's been my experience. I was always weirdly attracted to John Wick because everyone kind of talked about it.
His name's Keanu Reeves.
No, the film series.
Oh.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because gay. But everyone's like talked about John Wick in kind of like this very like otherworldly thing. Like
it's revered.
It's a huge like
Well,
cinematic
definitely has
experience.
a cult following, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of just hype surrounding it, and I always meant to watch it, but I never did. And so I was like, okay, here's a chance.
Well, if you're gonna watch one, you should watch the first one, especially like even just like the quality of the action. Like that one actually stood out where I was like, gave me pause where I was like, wow, this is like an art form, like what they're doing here. And it's not. I don't feel like that one was as blatantly like gore focused.
I feel like the pace is much faster. I didn't feel as though it lingered as much on the violence. It didn't savor the violence the way that this movie did. It was just like a quick pop onto the next one, quick pop onto the next one. Yeah.
Right.
You know, and again, you can't discount the thrust of that movie in terms of it being the revenge, right?
It has that feeling it.
That gets you on its side, and that's what allows you to kind of excuse some of the horrific things that are happening on screen.
Mr. Wick broke the rules. I trust you understand the repercussions if he survives.
So now here we are. We arrive at John Wick 3. And I guess if you guys want to give me some of your general impressions of the film.
Go ahead, Josh.
Okay. I thought it was okay. I thought that the action was gratuitous, excessive, and boring. But I think kind of like a general flick, like a summer blockbuster type thing, I thought it was fine. Obviously, the people reacting to the film thought so as well. And yeah, I there was no story. The story was pointless, and I actually feel a little. Maybe I'm changing the way I feel about this movie as I talk about it. Well, like the ending of the movie, I feel so like dissatisfied and like as if we hadn't gone on this huge journey that he has gone on in this film. So the story is really flat for me, but I guess there's some interesting set pieces. I don't think they were utilized properly, but you know, this is kind of like if I'm going to take it seriously, thinking about this film, then I'd give it like an eh. It was okay.
You know, what I'll say about this series, I guess, this movie is that it does a very good job of world building, right? Like, this feels like a lived-in, somewhat believable world with these assassins that exist kind of on the fringes of society, and they have the high table, as you mentioned. They have their own set of rules and regulations that they follow to a T, because otherwise things will fall apart. Cinematography, you know, was pretty great in moments. There were some great aerial shots, and then, you know, the actual shooting of the fight scenes I thought was really well done, because even though the action is frenetic, it was clear to me. So like the editing and the cinematography in tandem, I thought did a good job. And those are about all the kind things that I have to say about this movie. I was deeply uncomfortable watching this movie, and that's why I said when we walked to the theater that I'm getting old. Like, I officially know I'm getting old, because something like this would have not bothered me 10, 12 years ago or whatever. But for some reason, I was stricken by this movie. I was sickened in times by this movie. The scene you're talking about, the opening scene, when he fucking hammers the knife into the guy's fucking skull.
That's so cool.
And then combine that with the slow knife up to the fucking eyeball. And I was thinking about that incredible scene in Saving Private Ryan. You know, when what's his name?
Yes, we know the scene.
You know what I'm talking
when
about?
They're fighting in
when
the
they're
church
fighting
or the building,
the Nazi,
yeah.
and like, you know, it's a fucking struggle, and he's doing this, and the Nazi's like, shh, shh. That was like that idea done well, right?
Hör auf! Du hast keine Chance. Lass es uns beenden. Stop! Listen to me! Listen to me! Stop! No. Es ist einfacher für dich. Viel einfacher. Du wirst sehen, es ist gleich vorbei.
And so the big thing, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. So those are the good things about it. Otherwise, it was sickeningly, horrifically violent, and yeah.
Jackson, what did you think about the movie?
I think it was technically, I guess, well done. You know, definitely like choreographed. You know, there's some skill there. But
yeah. Sorry.
As far as like the story, there is no story really. You know, seems to be a backdrop of this world that you know, there's rules that John Wick broke, and that's like basically the whole idea of this is that he is paying for the rules that he broke in the last movie.
Right.
But it's really, what is it, 2.5 hour movie?
2 hour 10 minute.
2 hours and 10 minutes of
130 minutes
of really just wall to wall fight scenes and violence. You know, some brief scenes of conversation and dialogue, but other than that, it's just fighting, and it really doesn't switch up too much. Like, you start off with some knife play, some fist fights. He kills some guys with some horses.
All right, he got the horses, in the back.
Yeah, he's got the
horse stock.
John Wick's got the horses in the back.
I got the horses in the back. Horse stock is attached.
Not only did they do it once.
About Old Town Country Road?
Old Town Country Road.
Old
Town Road.
Wait, one more time?
That's it.
I'm gonna take my.
That's cool. Thanks. I'm just helping myself out in the future for this editing.
But I mean, like, through all of that violence, you really have to ask yourself, like, why is he doing this? Like, why doesn't he just, like, give up? And they try to answer that question. They're like, why are you doing this, John Wick? Why are we watching this movie? And he says, I have to remember my wife, which is possibly the lamest reason to kill hundreds of people.
Oh, it was the best revelation of any movie of all time is when he's in the desert.
Remember her. Okay, all right, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. I guess we should set up real quick.
But I just want to follow up the point of the no story thing and the world building. They did a really good job. I think they were really intending on a lot of people who had not seen 1 and 2 to come and see 3, because I was constantly reminded of what rules what about all these different terminology, and like they would say it within a scene like 6 or 7 times, like you've been excommunicado. Like that's what that first act was. That's all titled excommunicado. So I think let's give some credit to that.
Deconsecrated.
Deconsecrated.
It has been deconsecrated.
I don't even know what that means, and now I know that that's a good thing for the high table, but a bad thing for Ian McShane.
And one last point is the only thing more horrific than the violence was the attempts at humor.
Yeah. That was a punchline for many jokes was, yeah.
What do you need? Guns. Lots of guns.
Then we get to movie 3, right, where it opens up with Keanu Reeves running through the rain for literally 15 fucking minutes, looking like he's looking for a bathroom. Like he's just like, I gotta poop. Let me in.
Parabellum.
Sorry, sir. This is for customers only.
Sorry, this is for customers.
But I gotta go.
All these rules.
Rules have consequences.
So then it's opened up. He's excommunicado. That means every fucking assassin in the world wants to, get John Wick for his $15 million bounty. He is starting to make this pilgrimage to talk to the highest echelon of people within the organization to essentially say, please forgive me. Excuse me.
My wife, I must remember.
I must remember my wife.
I will forget if I don't kill.
Mea culpa. And so that's basically the premise of the movie. They have this, they're throwing one badass at him after another, and he's conquering all foes. Although I will say between John Wick 1 and John Wick 3, Keanu Reeves has slowed down considerably. Yeah. Some of the choreography, which the reason why the choreography is so great is because the director of the film, Chad Stilinski, I think, he was Keanu Reeves' stunt double in the Matrix trilogies. And
ooh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about this movie, but I didn't know that.
So he started out as a choreographer, stuntman, and then, God, I can never fucking remember this guy's name. It's David Kassadian or something like that. He is the writer of all 3 movies. So one thing you can say about this series is that it's had the same director and the same writer, all 3. David Leitch, something like that. He was a co-director on the first one, but he had no involvement with the other 2. But at any rate, yeah, so this guy was Keanu Reeves' stunt double. This guy, David, was writing the script, and it was actually about, like, an older man. They had Paul Newman in mind, I guess, to play this character of, like, a seasoned old assassin that's got, has to be brought out of retirement. They eventually settled on, well, no, it's going to look really weird to see Paul Newman slitting people's fucking throats and blowing their brains out. So why don't we get a seasoned action actor, and then they settled on Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves was the one who subsequently got Chad involved as a director. So that's kind of the background of these movies. And you can see the love for, fucking John Woo, right? And anime. You can see all this love for martial arts movies, as you pointed out.
There's some Police Story. I don't know if you're familiar with Police Story 2 or 1.
Oh, yeah.
But with Jackie Chan, there's an amazing way to end a movie is with throwing everybody in a glass, and everyone throws you in a glass, and you destroy an entire mall full of glass.
He gets thrown into a glass, I get thrown into a glass.
And I think there's a scene in Police Story where like Jackie Chan's like falling through like different sheets of glass, and it's like poof, 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 poof. It's really cool, and they did that a little bit in this movie, and I kind of instantly thought, and I feel like that was definitely a homage.
And this was the second movie was actually technically the first, but this is a reunion between Lawrence Fishburne and Keanu Reeves in this movie. And I felt since The Matrix, and I saw a couple homages to The Matrix, namely the one where Lawrence Fishburne, it's always raining. It's always raining in this fucking movie. Literally, like except for when they're in fucking Casablanca, there's rain in every scene. And he's sitting there, and it's a extreme close up on his face as the rain drips down his face, which is a direct callback to that scene in The Matrix when Morpheus is handcuffed and the chopper.
Also, rain signifies death and mourning. Well, and it was a foreshadowing to the coming events. Which...
Oh, fuck you! No one gave it that much thought. It was a noirish touch. This movie was trying to take some of that noir imagery and use it to different effect, right? Because noir movies aren't known for their excessive violence in this respect.
Right, it's dramas.
More hard boiled.
The scene that reminded me of the kung fu movies the most was when he's walking in Casablanca, and the first guy steps out in the walkway and blocks his path, and he turns around, and then the other guy walks back and blocks his backup path.
And it's foggy, right?
Yeah.
I like to think that John Wick, or like Keanu Reeves is playing this character, and he sees a guy stand in the middle of this alley. He's like, "Oh man, it's blocked. I should turn around." Like he's not even thinking like, "Oh, I gotta kill this guy in a second."
You guys know where the bathroom is?
I've been having to poop.
I really got poop
for weeks.
I guess I'll try this way. Oh.
I just like how simply it just turns around and it's like, I gotta go.
Yeah. Yes. Minimal effort.
I've been looking forward to meeting you for a long time. And so far, you haven't disappointed.
So, what I was expecting, since we're talking about kung fu or just like Hong Kong cinema in general, or comparing it to, I was expecting going into this movie thinking like it's gonna be super flashy, like visually it's gonna be like super stylized and come from like packing a punch. Where, as you talked about, Addison, earlier on, it's like very clear, very like the language of it is very much trackable.
It's concise.
Yeah, well, like there's no like super hard cuts, or there's no quick cuts. There's no like things that really disorient you, except for the action itself, and it's so that you can get a clear shot of like John Wick like stabbing like 6 people in a row. Like you have like those single like everything's in the center of the frame type action. Where I was expecting something like Fallen Angels, like a Wong Kar-wai movie where like there's like blurry and there's just so much happening, and it really like kind of like there's violence and there's blood and all that stuff, but it's more so focused on like the brutality of it rather than just it's like the opposite of sanitized.
Well, what you're describing is in the Wong Kar-wai film, they're trying to evoke within the audience the kind of frenetic, disorienting feeling that it probably would come with being in a fight like that, a fight for one's life, right? Whereas John Wick's choreography, cinematography, everything allows such a clear picture, it allows us to become completely detached from what's happening in the film. Again, going back to there being no consequences to the violence, right? It allows us to be far more passive in our absorption of this movie.
Also, I think it's romanticizing violence, Fallen Angels, because I think the scene before there's like an intro about a guy who's in love and how he's crazy, and then it goes to this assassination attempt, and it's like very like almost beautiful, like the way he's just murdering all these people. And John Wick, like it's just I'm totally detached. I don't really get I don't have any emotional things other than like, oh, gross. Oh, he shoved a book in that guy's face.
Oh, that was pretty nasty.
And
He
he broke his
fucking jaws.
Yeah, he
hanging down.
breaks his jaw and then he snaps his fucking neck against the book.
Dude, or when he like breaks that motorcycle guy's arm. Oh yeah, spoilers. Fuck you guys. When he breaks that guy's arm, I know, right? He fight the guy, and then he killed a guy. And
what motorcycle guy?
With the dangling
remember,
arm.
Oh yeah,
with the
really
dangling arm that
chase.
goes back into the spokes of the fucking motorcycle. I was like, why?
So there's a couple moments where I'm like, for violence for me, I'm just like, it's a movie, whatever, cool. I respect like the stunts and all that. This movie didn't really make me do that too much. That was one of them. The book thing was one of them because I was like, oh, this is how we're starting this movie.
Too,
yeah. Really cool. I thought those were like I wanted more of that instead of just
more
like
book kills.
Instead of like going to Casablanca and shooting like 600 Muslims in the head.
He's an intellectual, okay? He doesn't like your knives and guns.
I want
Kill
books.
people with books.
I did
Literature
notice
is powerful.
that when John Wick is fighting people who aren't white, he does seem to have a little,
Soft spot?
extra energy going.
Oh
into
yeah,
his,
he seems way more
his fight
motivated.
scenes, yeah.
Or
So-
he's just like.
That's a big thing I want to talk about. As far as problems with this movie, I had many, right? Most of them were trivial, in terms of like moment to moment. Oh, okay, he walks in the desert, and then of course like the guy finds him in the fucking desert. It's real easy to wrap up. He cuts off his fucking ring finger. Okay, I get it. The script was full of contrivances and it was convenient, blah blah blah. One of my big complaints with this movie is Halle Berry.
Yeah, well, Halle Berry took me out of the movie.
She was horrible in this movie.
Oscar buzz, Oscar.
Almost.
And the Oscar goes to...
You shouldn't be here. Nice suit.
Good to see you too.
Halle Berry for John Wick 3.
I was expecting her to like with her dogs like play a game of pickup basketball like she does in Catwoman.
Dude, you took it from me. You fucking took it from me. All right, roll the clip.
Can we have our ball back?
100% pure cringe.
Is that where her career ended?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, she was in Monsters Ball. Make me feel good. Which is one of my
a
favorite
callback.
scenes of fucking all time. I know it is a callback. And then she was in Catwoman, which is notoriously one of the worst films ever made.
Because it seems like it's harder for her to get like bigger roles these days,
Yeah.
for sure.
This is
Yeah,
not,
I felt
this is
like
not
this
a
was
great
a bone.
example on a reel. Like
No, she like the fake acting where she was like,
he killed my dog.
my daughter, and if I find out where my daughter is, I'm gonna go for her. Ciao.
So obviously,
I'm gonna go for her.
I don't trust myself. Obviously, the dog wasn't hurt because she pulls the bullet off of its like bulletproof vest
Right.
and brushes it off. So why does she feel the need to massacre like a whole village of Muslims?
Because they shot
Well, that is
at the dog.
Oh,
well, right.
that's a
The-
you
in-
offended my honor.
yes. The grievous act of even attempting to fire at the dog.
You
So-
kill a dog, we have to kill 300 people.
At least,
That's
at
a
least.
fact.
So we've talked recently, with every movie, as far
Yeah,
as
lean in closer next
movies are product. A movie's trying to sell you something. Always. That's always the case. A movie's trying to sell you something. What is this movie selling?
It's gonna be our new criteria of this podcast. Yeah, Jackson, go ahead.
Because the wholesale slaughter of people in turbans didn't sit great with me.
I mean, he definitely, doesn't. He kills some Asians, kills some white people, but yes, that scene was drawn out, and it was definitely like the highest body count
by far.
Was in Casablanca. Basically, looks like the Middle East, where they're just like running through a whole city, just massacring the whole male population.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely noticed it. I wasn't too taken aback just because it's a whole movie of people getting killed. But
I don't know. It went on for so long that I couldn't help but think about. Well, it's just like a very typical action film thing, is where you get faceless villains to come after you, and you don't really feel any connection to them because you aren't introduced to them in any way.
So
it's just
where
like
the turban comes
But
in
if
handy.
you if you look
but
at
like,
a
why can't
movie-
you have like just like some guys who are in all black or whatever? They're like with they're like tactical gear and shit.
Like at the end of the movie, that's what they did.
Right.
Yeah.
Historically, if you look at action movies like this, like 70s, 80s, whoever the hero is killing is almost always the political enemy of the time, right?
Sure.
Like it's the Russians or it's the Afghanis.
Okay.
And so I was absolutely picking up some vibes there because, like you said, what did we have? We had Chinese that we killed. We had some kind of vague Middle Eastern thing. Who would you say are maybe the two biggest opponents of the United States at this moment in time? We just got a fucking $60 billion tariff imposed on us by the
Irish.
Chinese. Those bloody Irish.
Yeah, Liam Neeson, we're coming for you.
Black bastards.
I was just thinking about Casablanca the film, and because that's such a weird place to set a movie for any length of time, and if you're
They were trying to get out of New York, like that. They were just trying to get.
I know,
a
but
different
go
set
and
piece.
just go somewhere else in North Africa. Just like I don't know. Anyways, whatever. That doesn't matter. What I was thinking about was that Casablanca is an anti-war film, and now that you're bringing up like the enemy, the faceless enemy of people, and I, as America, am John Wick, coming to shoot you down. I thought it was an interesting parallel, and that might even be intentional.
Yeah. So what are they trying to sell you?
I don't know. I don't.
Based
For
off
me,
of-
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you were supposed to answer originally.
Okay, well, I was gonna say, based off of the audience, it was definitely just uninhibited violence. Like
I think so, but
they're
there's-
really into it.
There's a more subliminal thing happening here, a more subtle suggestion. I feel like and I could be completely off base, but I do think if you examine Chinese, Russian, vaguely Middle Eastern, those are the main opponents of this film.
John Wick will destroy all of America's enemies.
We're sending Keanu Reeves out right now.
He will taste the blood of every man, woman, and child of China, Russia, and the Middle East.
If you support John Wick, your family will have very good years. If not...
All of this for what? Because of a puppy?
Wasn't just a puppy.
Also, in that one more note on that scene, the guy who plays Bronn in Game of Thrones, the guy who's like a part of the well, in chapter 5, book 3, the guy who is the high table member who Halle Berry takes him to.
Yeah,
his accent is awful. It's so bad, and
it reminded me of the scene in The Dark Knight. When all the fake Batman, it's like the very beginning of all the Batman show up, and he's like, "Where is Batman? My dogs are hungry."
That's exactly the accent he was doing.
Seriously, yeah.
There was one time where he just like one word, he just rolled it so hard.
Yes. Well, and same with the concierge, right? The black dude who is in The Wire, right?
He is, yeah.
And he did some kind of weird R roll too that was just so out of place.
Cringy.
Then you have Ian McShane, right, who literally like could not be less interested in the project than what he's doing, and like I feel like
that was the most refreshing part about
along
the
the lines of some of the other things we've talked about. They're like, okay, Ian, you're not just going to sit on the couch and drink liquor during this scene, all right? You have to participate. And he's like,
but it's brandy. I must have some.
Oh my god! Yeah, that kid was so
like he got too drunk to stand, so they're just like, stay on the couch.
Yeah,
we'll
they're like, actually, you know what? You can sit on the couch. We think actually, like, you really like informed us on your character. Now stay there.
Would you help set the mood for our new guest?
Let us begin.
The ending. Yeah, okay, so the ending, with the fight with, like, the sushi with Jiro.
Well, even, like,
who
pushing...
dreams of sushi.
Like, yeah, well, like, you have, like, just a ton of violence, and then you have to have this kind of resolution to all this violence, which they can't pull off, because it's, like, the high table's coming after them. What's going to get them to stop? They have this, what do they call it? Parlay.
A desegregation.
Mm-hmm. Oh. Yes, a parlay.
Yeah, they bust in some other assassins. And
oh, yeah, again, on the subject of horrible acting, the buzzcut chick, god-awful.
Yeah, there's some parts that I was like okay with.
Like, she started off alright.
She was not menacing
well, that was
in
like,
any way.
That was like supposed to be her character, where she's just like this agent of the high table, where she's just
bureaucrat.
Like, she's bureaucratic red tape basically with these rules.
I was like, why don't you just kill her now that they've like desegregated the hotel? And she's like, it's been done, and why don't you just shoot her with a gun, Mr. McShane? You know, come on. I could have wrote this movie.
I thought they would have killed her too, but so they have this parlay, and you know, the manager of the hotel, he negotiates his terms where his ground is consecrated again, you know, and he can get his old job back. That's great. And they're like, but what about him, John Wick? And then the manager, he's like, well, obviously he has to die. Pulls out a gun.
John Wick is like, activate bulletproof suit.
And also the guy who has been, for the most part, untouchable, slaughtering hundreds of people this whole movie, this old guy gets the drop on him,
right.
And all of a sudden it's just like, it's over.
And then he falls, probably 4 or 5 stories?
But he trusts him. He trusts him. It was a switcheroo.
So the one rule, he broke his one rule: don't trust anyone.
Don't trust nobody.
I only trusted my wife Mary, and now I can't even remember her because I have massive concussions.
Who will remember her?
I will. Pick me.
So yeah, he falls 4 stories in a gruesome way. Bang, bang, bang. Hits himself in the head, like in Spider-Man, where he falls and hits himself way too hard.
Yeah, but he doesn't have superpower.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but what's his face? Carts him off.
Jason Matsukas, I think is his name. He's a comedian.
Yeah, and gets him back to Lawrence Fishburne. Fishburne.
They took your finger.
Lawrence fist bump.
Yeah, Laura's fist in my bum. And into their hobo village. And he's like, ready to do this movie all over again?
Thunderdome, I know.
They took your finger.
They took your finger. Damn, I got cut 7 times.
Not this finger. Flips him off. Oh, people love that.
And then
they love that.
Oh yeah, that was okay. That was a fine visual comedy.
Yeah, like I said before, the cinematography is competent, if not more so, in moments.
But then Lawrence Fishburne, after he shows him his finger and then his middle finger, the camera goes up to his face and he looks at the camera and he says, "All right, now what you have to do, you have to start the film all the way over and then watch it again." And this is John Wick 4, and that's how we know to watch the next movie. So we get 2 movies in one.
No, it's clear. It's clear to me, anyways, that this franchise is completely out of ideas.
They have a TV show and a new movie.
You're a liar.
No,
I refuse to believe you.
They have a TV show that I think is either in production or post production.
Is it a prequel?
I have absolutely no idea. I don't know anything
John
about
Wick,
it.
Because Keanu Reeves, you see him?
Well, but you can hire like a younger actor.
So,
right?
John Wick, on his deathbed, describes his wife to somebody, and then it's their turn to remember his wife.
It's like a curse that he passes down.
He's like notes stacked up on,
he's
the,
like,
on the side of the
brown
bed, like
eyes,
pictures drawn.
It's chocolate chip ice cream.
5'5".
Yeah, there's a huge rendering like of her
fucking stack, bro.
On your honeymoon.
Her labia came out in such a way that it was as if it was a flower protruding between her thighs.
A lotus, one might say.
So the ending was dissatisfying, and like you said, it kind of undermines this whole character arc of the movie, which is unstoppable, killing machine.
It just digs the knife deeper of why are we watching 2 hours of this like nonsensical violence? Sure, it's technically sound and there's great cinematography, but you have to have something behind it, like a good revenge story or something like that.
Yeah, or a story, just period, like in general.
I like the
Give
part.
us a story.
I like the part. It was in the beginning of the movie. He's in his little book, his Russian folktale book, that he doesn't know where it's at.
And he pulls out a picture like,
Yeah, and then he gives the picture like a little Tim Heidecker, like
Give it a good look.
Yeah.
Take a little nibble of it.
So there it is. That's the story. That's all you need to know.
It.
We don't need flashbacks. We don't need any sort of like. We just need an hour and a half later the character saying, "I miss her. I want to remember her." That's how you know it's a good movie.
I guess so. Josh, would you recommend this movie?
Not really. No, I would give it a no.
What about you, Addison?
Abso-fucking-lutely not. Now, I guess there's a caveat, as always is generally with my recommendations. If you like gratuitous violence, you don't care about a story, you just want to see some people be murdered, eat your popcorn, fart, then go see this movie. It's perfect for you.
Eat your popcorn and fart. The American dream.
Pretty much. But if you have any craving for any substance, no, do not go see this movie. Please. Jackson?
If you don't care about John Wick at all, please don't see this because it will mean nothing to you. It'll just be 2 hours of watching people getting slaughtered. But if the John Wick franchise means anything to you and you kind of want to see like where it goes after the last movie, sure, why not? You know, I wouldn't pay a movie ticket price for it, but it's out there for you. It's okay.
Doing all right. We know she left.
So violent.
But you know what we'll do after she's gone? We're gonna remember her.
We will always remember her.
And I will kill anybody who tries to stop me from remembering.
I have to kill all these live people to remember my dead wife.
More people must die.
These people who are like some guy who's like, I just want to go home to my wife, but I have to charge through this door. John was my wife.
He's like in the grocery store, just like
armor-piercing shotgun round.
How dare
Please,
you,
sir, stop!
How dare you try to get me to forget my wife?
Every second I'm not killing somebody, I'm losing my memory of my wife.
It's Alzheimer's. He has Alzheimer's. Every kill gives him grants him one memory. Oh shit! What a fucking pile of dog shit.
Thanks for watching.
If you have any questions, concerns, complaints, please email us at tobehonestcast@gmail.com. And seriously, fuckers, if you're watching this, please send us an email. I mean, what's it gonna take? You know?
Yeah. What's up, buddies?
What's up, buddies? No.
Text me, call me.
If you've made it this far, we genuinely appreciate you watching this.